Welcome, boils and ghouls, to the Cryptic Podcast. My name's Kenny, and I'm here with my good friend Godden, and together we're here to watch and review every horrific, often hilarious episode of the legendary HBO anthology series, Tales from the Crypt. Ooh, I'm getting into it more and more every week.
I'm glad you are. It's so fun.
What's up, Godden? Welcome. How are you?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm good. We are at, what are we doing? We are on season 3, episode 12. This episode's called Deadline. It came to us August 14th, 1991 from Shock Suspense Stories. So that's where we're at. We are on episode 38. We have just tiniest bits of episodes left of season 3. So we're just about done with season 3. So not quite yet, but we're starting to get to that point where we're going to be reflecting on season 3 and doing a little, ranking and all that kind of fun stuff. So if you have a favorite episode from season 3 and you want to drop that in the comments, let us know. That way we can kind of shout it out by the time we finally get to our season ranking. So, there's that. So, let's get on about this episode. So, before we start, Godden and I are not experts. We're not professionals. We don't do a whole plethora of research before we jump into this. We just watch the episode a couple, maybe 3 times, and then we just blab on about it. Here we are. Let's blab on about it. Part of our blabbing is going to be spoilers. So if you don't want to be spoiled, go watch the episode on your own and then come back and watch us. And then, watch our old videos and then watch, and subscribe and like and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, do all that. I'm terrible at self-promotion. I think I said this before, but I feel really awkward when I post our material like on Facebook or stuff like that. So I feel kind of gross when I do it. So you out there, you listeners, if you do enjoy the content, feel free to share this with as many people as you would like. That would help us tremendously. That's enough rambling on. I'm going to go ahead and read the description of this episode from the back of the DVD box set here. We flip through my pages of human flesh. Okay. Deadline. A washed-up reporter will get his job back if he files a murder story. All he needs is a victim and a perp. I actually wish I read that before I watched this. I feel like the episode, what I wanted from the episode wasn't exactly what the episode was. It was very, very different. We'll talk about that when we get there. But all right, I have written up a little something here. It goes a little something like this. Charlie used to be a great reporter who could write one hell of a story. But when his drinking got out of hand, he lost his career and is desperate to get it back. So when his old boss gives him one more chance to prove himself by finding a murder story, we see just how far Charlie is willing to go.
Oh, so nice when you write these, Kenny.
Oh, good. I that's really when I'm writing these, in the deepest parts of my heart, I'm worried about getting that Godden stamp of approval. I think because the first couple I wrote, I really did kind of let the cat out the bag on like the spoilers, mm-hmm. And you came down hard on that. The very first time I did this, you were not pleased, and it really affected me, Godden. Constantly desperate for your approval for these. Okay, well, general thoughts before we get into this episode. What are your, without giving too much away, general feelings about this episode?
I like the noir setting, I'm not sure if this is the first time we had a noir setting. I'm trying to think back. But this one actually did stand out for that theme.
Yeah.
And, I'd probably watch it again. Probably not more than twice.
Yeah, this was very noir. And I'm sure there's been other noir stories in here so far, but this is definitely the most heavy-handed. I really like that part of this story. I like that angle. I like the vibe of this episode quite a bit. It's very nice. It's just, it's missing a detective story, really, right?
Right.
Yeah, I did like it. I did get, the first time I watched it, we watched it together. And the first time when we watched it, I was expecting one thing and I never got that. It became something else. So our initial discussion around this episode was, at least on my end, and me not liking it that much. After rewatching it, I've got some new thoughts on this. So I'm looking forward to sharing those with you, Godden.
I'm looking forward to hear them because I do want to hear how it compares from the first time we watched it, because it was pretty funny with our comments.
Yeah, I was not a big fan of this when we first came around. So the Crypt Keeper intro, though, the Crypt Keeper at this point has his whole crypt all dialed in for like a party. He's got a big old bar. There's people sitting around. There's skeletons walking through the scene. And he's the bartender. He pops up from behind the bar, says, "What'll it be, stranger? Can I interest you in a Mai Dai? Or would you prefer a rum and choke? Or maybe you'd like something a little stronger. I've got just the thing." He takes out his book, he puts it onto the bar, and he goes to read us what he calls a nasty little snootful about a newshound named Charlie who needs a murder story and a drink. But not necessarily in that order. What some people won't do for a good stiff one. I call this little eye-opener Deadline. And that brings us to the opening panel. Now, this is already spoilers in here because I do not like this particular opening panel. I guess you know what, maybe I do like it, but having watched it, now I get it. Before I watched it, I thought this was something else. So you got a man who is laying down at the bar, and you know his drink's kind of spilled. Behind him, you've got that woman watching over, and then behind that, you see a bunch of newspaper articles that say things like "woman killed, third victim in month," and all these different stories that have to do with sex and violence and crime and murder and that kind of stuff. The picture this painted to me when I first sat down to see this is like a femme fatale story. She's up to something. She's collecting all these victims. Those are all the news articles about what she's up to behind her. And this guy in the front is probably her most recent victim that she just killed at the bar. That's kind of the narrative that I painted in my own head. Now, if you look at it more closely, you can see that not all the stories have to do with the murder and women and whatnot. So it starts to kind of show you that this isn't necessarily what that's all about. But from my perspective, going into this really quickly, I just glanced at this and thought, yep, I get it. I see where the story is going, and it's not where the story is going. So expecting her to be the murderer or in some way the criminal mastermind behind all of this is not what happened. So I was waiting for something that never happened, and that definitely led to my disappointment. Godden, what are your thoughts about the opening panel?
I really like the opening panel. It's very artsy, it's simple with, just the background and the foreground. And the background's what really captivated me. It's like the whole like newspaper just list. That's what really I don't know. That's the thing I just started reading off the most because I actually wanted to know how the story was going to be. But I do like your take where it would have been a femme fatale and she might have been a serial killer. I didn't think of it that way, but now I'm more interested to see if that would have been possible.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like it. Colors are there, and it's simple, honestly. It's very simple.
Yeah, it looks nice. It does look nice, but it's misleading because after having watched it, now I get it, right? Those are his articles. He wrote those articles, right? Because he is the news reporter, and he kind of makes a living off of getting these nasty stories. And she just happens to be in the middle of it, right? She just happens to be there. So she's kind of, actually, I like it even more now that I realize what I just said. She's literally in between his story and him. I like that. That's actually kind of a nice way that's drawn there. Is Voss an actual bourbon or whiskey brand?
Let me see. I've never seen that brand. Looks before. Let's see. It is. Yeah, there is a Voss sparkling vodka.
Oh, Voss sparkling vodka.
Yeah. So there's that.
So after the opening panel, we go to scene one, which is Charlie, the main character, he's basically, at this point, he's breaking the fourth wall and he's looking right at you. He's basically saying, my name's Charlie McKenzie. I'm a newspaper man. I used to be a great reporter. I would do anything for a story. And I was, basically I have articles in these fancy magazines and these fancy newspapers. And he's just kind of, basically bragging. And he says, I used to be pretty good, but I had a little problem. And that's where we transition to the bar. And we, after the camera pans across the bar really slowly, we see Charlie is just passed out at the bar. So clearly Charlie has a problem. But to back up just a little bit to talk about the opening with him talking to us, I was confused because I wasn't sure if he was talking to us or was this kind of like a clever little misdirect where it's going to zoom out and it's actually he's talking to, I don't know, like a security guard or a judge or something. Like I wasn't quite sure what I was expecting here. I didn't quite know where Charlie was or what was going on. And that's deliberately so. It's supposed to be ambiguous like this, but narratively, I didn't know if he was talking to us or was he talking to somebody.
Yeah, I got that feeling too. But also when that first scene was introduced, I thought of Niles, from your favorite season 1, episode 1. I forgot the title.
The man who is death.
What was the title of that? The Man Who Was Death. Yeah, I had that same vibe too when I first saw that. But yeah, I was actually hoping that he was talking to someone. But I had a feeling like, it might be monologuing or just, just to us.
Yeah.
And it was true.
Yeah, because there was, the Man Who Was Death, he talked right to the camera. And then we had our good friend Ulrich, the Undying, who talked directly to us. And then that's so funny that we haven't had another episode of a narration by the main character until, was it the last episode? The splitting, whatever it was called, was it Splitting Time or something like that, or Split Second? That's what it was. Yeah, that because we just had a narration there, and now we have this one. So I kind of like these, by the way. I like these where we have a little bit of a narration by the main character. So anyway, we cut to Charlie sleeping at the bar, and that's where the bartender comes in. Bartender says basically, "Hey, Charlie, you sleeping?" Charlie gets up and basically asks for another drink. Right? He's already like, what do they call that? 3 sheets to the wind. He's already just knocked out at the bar. He's already asking for another drink. And that's where the bartender kind of, steps in and he says, as a friend, why don't you go home? Go shave, get yourself cleaned up, as a friend, just go home. And Charlie actually gets hostile at that point. He says, I may be down on my luck, but I used to be a big shot. And he goes on, I used to talk to senators and important people, and I just want a drink. And at that point, the bartender kind of gives up and just basically just pours him a drink anyway. Yeah, this is an interesting setup right away. You see that Charlie has a problem. Even the bartender is stepping in to try to do something about this. And this won't be the first time the bartender steps in to do something about it. And as far as I'm concerned, the bartender throughout this entire episode is the MVP. Yeah, this guy has Charlie's bag. If you are ever down in the dumps, you want a bartender like this in your life to be able to cut you off in a friendly way and say, look, you need to go get yourself cleaned up. That's exactly what he does more than once. So after he gets his last drink, or his next drink, I should say, it's not his last drink, a woman enters and definitely catches the eye of Charlie. So Charlie heads on over. And, oh my gosh, Charlie, I don't know if he's drunk or what, but he tries flirting with her by implying that she's a hooker. Did you catch that?
Yeah, it was just like so like off the cuff and just rude, It just seems kind of out of nowhere, yeah.
I forget exactly how he said it, but it was more along the lines of, a woman like you coming to a bar like this, you got to be a hooker, right? But he's coming on to her at the same time. He's definitely interested in her. Her name's Vicky, by the way, and she's not necessarily playing hard to get, but she's definitely not too much into him, but she's not shooing him away. They're just kind of bantering back and forth. Charlie at one point, because Charlie said, I haven't seen you here before. And she says, what, are you here every night? And he is. But he says, well, I'm a reporter. I got to talk to people, right? I report on murder and rape and crime And then he turns to her and he says, hey, how about I interview you and I do a story about you? And again, this led in to my being misdirected by this episode. By that little line of dialogue, it made me think, oh, she is the murderer. She is up to something, and he's going to kind of get to the bottom of it. Like, that's really where I thought the story was going. She agrees to go hang out with him, right? Quote unquote, hang out with him. We get that voiceover that comes back of Charlie basically reminiscing about Vicky. He says, she was so good looking. She had a body and she knew how to use it. And he says, I slept with lookers before, but this Vicky, she was different. She made me feel real, like I was 25 again. So, oh, by the way, it's all done in this noir style, like we're saying. So the way he delivers his lines is very like the voiceover that you'd get like from one of those detective stories. It's dark and there's like lots of black and whites. Of course, it's like noir. You know what noir looks like. It's just the style is so seeping in it. It is a fun episode to watch just in that way.
Yeah, it really is on the nose with noir. If you've pretty much seen one movie or show that has depiction of noir, you pretty much know what this is. You know, there's always like a monologue, you know, constant monologuing with a detective or some main character, and then of course there's like a hot, you know, character that comes in, and you always hear like the saxophones like playing like really jazz music as they walk in. But now that you mentioned the noir, though, I remember the first time we watched through this, you were okay with the soundtrack at first, but then maybe 5 minutes after, you're like, okay, I can't, because I agree, the pianos were very aggressive.
Yeah.
It's like ding 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 ding. It's like, what is happening? Like,
yeah.
They're just at the bar.
Yeah, the music in this episode was next level. Like, the dissonance alone in a lot of what was being played was just too much for me. It was a bit grating on my ears. Some of the soundtrack, it was just a bit too 1920s jazz. Very like it was a bit much. I don't know music well enough to be able to speak to what was going on, but the word dissonant just comes to mind a lot. So we go back to his apartment, and it's the next day. Vicky's getting dressed, and she's getting ready to leave. She's leaving for work, and Charlie says, "Hey, how about we meet for lunch?" And Vicky basically cuts us off. She says, "You know, we don't have to go have lunch. I don't want this to become a thing, right? I don't want us to to develop this relationship. What we did last night, that was fun, you know, but we don't need to make this a thing." And Charlie actually says, "Okay, yeah, what we did last night was fun, and there's the door. And if you never want to see me again, that's fine. I got enough problems in my life." And this might even be, I don't know if he really meant it or this was meant for like some reverse psychology, but if it was reverse psychology, it worked. Because at this point, Vicky's like, "Oh, well, it's fine if we see each other. I just don't, you know, want us to be, you know, I don't want to have us become a thing." And Charlie says, "Yeah, I just said let's have lunch, not get engaged." And this comes back to later where he'll ask something of her that takes her out of her comfort zone because she does not want a relationship. But I think he does, though. I think he genuinely likes her. And whenever he does push for something, she'll kind of push back and he'll say, "What? I'm just asking this. I'm not saying let's get engaged." Right. So I just kept I kept expecting him to say, like, you know, "What? I just asked you to move in with me. It's not like we're getting engaged." "What? I just asked you for an engagement. It's not like we're getting married." I just can imagine him constantly one-upping, you know, like minimizing what he's asking for, while at the same time, you know, pointing out that he's not asking for something that's, you know, too over the top. And that, by the way, that I was impressed by that little nuance of him, because that comes into play later with his drinking, with his alcoholism, because he'll minimize things that other people see as a problem and point out that it's not that big of a deal. So I like that character flaw in him. I like the fact that he does that he'll minimize a problem and then make it seem like it's not as big as it could be. So I like that little flair on him. I like that bit.
I would like to add on that point you made where, like, was it reverse psychology or not? And I don't think it was, because he did mention in the the scene prior that he's been with hookers. This is the first one that makes him feel younger, I guess. So yeah, maybe he really just has his own problems, and he's just an adult about it. It's like, yeah, just leave the, you don't have to be here.
Yeah.
But let's get engaged. No, one thing that really bothered me was how aggressive she was brushing her hair. I was just like, what is happening? Like, I guess she's in a hurry, but damn, like, there's no knots. But no.
Yeah. You, as a man with longer hair, could know like the perils of just whisking the brush really quickly through.
Yeah. But no, so far in this episode, I was all aboard. Like I said, I'm like, yep, this is I like where it's going. I don't know what's gonna happen yet. So I like when it's like that.
At this point in the episode, I was trying to think, okay, how is she going to become, like, how are we going to get revealed? Like, where's the chink in her armor? Like, where are we going to get that first little hint that she's crazy or a killer? Like, that's where my mind was going, because I really thought it was about her. So the next scene, we're in a busy office, and what's his name is there, and Charlie is there. And Charlie is basically meeting with, I think this is his old boss.
Yeah.
Phil, his old boss, so. Phil. So he's meeting with Phil, basically saying, look, I need work. Give me something. And Phil says, I wish I could, but I've got nothing, And Charlie says, I quit drinking, can you help me out? And Phil looks at him and says, yeah, I've heard that one before. So this is something that's happened before, right? Like, he's definitely tried to come to work and maybe even came to work drunk and just became a liability and ended up losing his job. So Phil says, yeah, I've heard that before. But Charlie says, look, things are different. I met a girl, right? So I met a girl. She's important to me. I'm willing to make some life changes here. And Charlie even reasons with him. He says, look, I'm a damn good reporter, right? I can write a story. So I think Phil hears this and he says, look, I'll give you a trial run. You go out there and you get me a story. You get me a murder, right? Something juicy. So he wants like a front page story out of Charlie. So Charlie's got the bug now, right? I think Charlie is a good reporter, and I think Charlie does enjoy writing about these types of stories. I think he does like that. So now he has the bug, and now he really wants to get out there and find something.
When he was begging for the job back, I did wonder how come his boss said, "Oh, you're not gonna get any story. It has to be a murder." So it makes me wonder, like, are murders just that hard to come by nowadays for their city, and he's just setting him up for failure because he knows like it's just so hard to get a story like that nowadays, like something juicy. So that's what I thought of, because he was, like he said, he's like, oh, my I'm up to my armpits, like I have like no call to hire you back. So I wonder like if he was just like leading him on in a way.
Oh, right. Like really, giving him,
promising him.
Yeah. Giving him like a mountain of something to, like, giving him more than he can possibly handle. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. I didn't think of it that way. Yeah. I just figure he wanted, right. If he's going to get this, if Phil knows that Charlie's this desperate, then yeah, might as well give him a really, really big job that he would be desperate to go find. And maybe a murder case is kind of hard to find at this point. Well, the next scene is at Charlie's sister's house. So Charlie goes knocking on his sister's door, and she opens up, and basically she's not happy to see him. She says, oh, you want more money, huh? So basically the dynamic is this. He's been coming to her house for month after month asking for rent money, basically. And she tells him, this is the last time. I don't want you coming back here again for money. I'll give you the money this time, and that's it, and you got to go. And by the way, she gives him $500. So this is rent money. This is rent money back in like 1991. $500 a month for rent. Are you kidding me? That's a car payment today. I pay more than that for my car payment right now. I would gladly pay $500 a month for rent. Let's see here. Let me look up something real quick. How much was it? 1991? How much 91. Was 500 worth in 1991? Okay, it's about $1,250 today. So I guess his rent is $1,250, which is still pretty darn cheap, don't you think?
what, California's like what, 2,000 to 2,500. Everywhere else is like
3,000
under
or
that.
4,000.
Oh, is that what it is now? Dang.
Well, I
yeah.
mean, depending on what kind of, I guess his apartment. His
Yeah.
apartment would probably be closer to 3,000, maybe 2,800.
Yeah, because the vibe I was getting was this is like set in LA-ish, maybe like somewhere
Yeah.
a high dense city in the West. So yeah.
I don't know, but anyway, so he's borrowing, right? By today's standards, he's borrowing a little over $1,000 a month from his sister. His sister's had enough and basically says, just take the money and go. I never want to see you again asking for money. And even before he leaves, she even says, I know you're taking that money right to a bar and you're going to drink yourself stiff. And on his way out, he says, this time you're wrong. So this is where he starts to turn a new leaf at this point, right? He's still having to beg and borrow from his sister, and he's still having to jump through these hoops from his old boss to get his job back. But there's a light at the end of his tunnel. So you start rooting for this guy. And this is where also I started to get an inkling like, oh, wait, how far is he willing to go to get this job? Is he willing to actually go the easel kill you route and actually murder somebody to get the story? Like, is that where we're going with this? So now I'm starting to piece together this femme fatale with his story. Is he going to try to kill her while she tries to kill him? Like, is that what's going on here? So again, these are the expectations in my brain while we're going through this story that didn't happen. So keep that in mind. Okay.
But I do like the sister, putting her foot down, because when she initially opened the door and it saw the lock, I didn't think it was a sister. I didn't know who to expect. But then when we found out it's a sister, I'm like, oh wow, like that shows, the relationship on top of him being an alcoholic, and you can just like kind of put pieces together. Maybe they just fell off as siblings because he just went through, just a rough time when he was a big shot. So when he fell pretty bad. Clearly, he fell all the way down. So. And he has no more support, so it's unfortunate.
Yeah, and that's another thing about addiction is it really can cost you not just your job, but your family and your close friends, and the decisions you make aren't necessarily the decisions you want to make. They're the decisions you need to make to get that for yourself. And in his case, it's the alcohol. So it's actually I find it to be quite a poignant story about his addiction, which is, upon watching it a couple more times, you get a lot more out of it, and you can see a lot more of his desperation and I guess just being consumed by wanting to drink. So that was profound to me. So the next scene, after he collects his money from his sister, is back at the bar. He goes right back to the bar, but he goes there to actually tell Vicky and the bartender about his sobriety. He tells them both, I'm not drinking anymore. I'm done. And this is, I got my job back and I'm back in it. And again, MVP here, the bartender is genuinely happy for Charlie. He says, hey, that's great. He pats him on the back and shouts to the entire bar, hey, Charlie's back on the wagon. And he's excited. And when they say you're in love, you want to tell the world. And in this case, I feel the bartender is in love with Charlie's new beginning, Charlie's new lease at life. He wants to tell everybody there at the bar. He just can't wait to scream it from the rooftops. It made me feel happy for the bartender for having this to actually be part of his life. I love this part of the episode.
It is nice to see, like, maybe the bartender had a lot of regulars who just were succumb to alcoholism and he can't do anything about that. Mm-hmm. But maybe he has a simple friendship with Charlie that he was really rooting for him.
Yeah. Yeah. He even said, like, you're one of my best customers, but I'm glad to see that you're sober. So maybe you can just come and buy sodas. Yeah. So a great character was this bartender. I liked our time with him. This next scene, though, this is where Charlie really gets tested. So he's trying his hand at being sober. He's trying his hand at his new job, and it is not going well. He's in the office, and he's basically it's a long montage of him just making call after call after call, trying to get some story. He's calling up other reporters. He's calling up other news agencies. He's calling up the morgue. He's calling up the police department, the hospital. He's calling everybody, just trying to get something, and nobody has anything for him. He's just absolutely coming to dead ends no matter who he calls. And everybody he calls either doesn't know anything, they can't help him. They say, oh, I'll just give you a call. He even says, like, one of them says, oh, let me give you a call back. He goes, no, I'll give you a call back. Like, he'll probably call him back like in 10 minutes. So he's really trying here, and he's calling up all of his old sources trying to figure something out, and he cannot do it. And he's just becoming more and more defeated. And then by the end of the scene, his old boss walks by, Phil, and Phil says, hey, how's it going? And he puts that smile on his face. Hey, it's going good. I'm calling my sources. I'm going to get something. So in front of his boss, he puts on that smile like he's got it under control. But then, when his boss isn't there and he's kind of by himself, we see that look of defeat on his face. So again, it makes me think of that addiction he has, or at least the struggles he goes through in which he thinks he needs what he needs, the alcohol. So on his face, he's saying, I'm defeated, I need a drink. But then when somebody else is around, he puts that smile on like everything's just fine. So on the surface, other people might not realize you have a problem, but then of course under the surface, you're all kinds of messed up, right? So I really like that scene as well.
Yeah, it was kind of fun to see like him in his working mode, because then you get to see why he was a big shot, and you just see like how many people he knew. Like he just had everyone just ready. So it's unfortunate that he needed a murder case and he's just getting nothing the whole day. So you feel bad for him a little bit.
Yeah, you do feel bad for him in this scene. And you're right, you do get a glimpse at him in what might have been his prime. Like, he knows all these people, he knows all these sources, he's able to call them, he has a relationship with them all. And you can't help but think maybe a lot of these people are turning their shoulder to him and not helping him because of what he's done to them in the past. Maybe his alcoholism really did get the better of him, and he kind of burned all these bridges. So you don't know if there just really is nothing out there, or if people are kind of either ignoring him or shining him on because they don't really want to deal with him because they know that he's kind of either hot-tempered or not very reliable or whatever. Like, you don't really know. You don't really get all that. I guess you can read into it more if you really want to think about it, but we don't know. We just don't. So he's back at the bar after his long day of work, and you see Charlie start to crack. He's back there. He's complaining he can't get a story, and he asks the bartender to pour him a drink. And MVP here comes through and says, no, Charlie, I'm not going to pour you a drink. He says, look, this is your chance to straighten out and get back to work. And Charlie, again, minimizing the issue at hand, says, I am working. It's not me. There's just nothing going on right now. I need a drink. Like, these little, like, whoever wrote this must have been an addict in some way, or knew an addict. Because I feel like all these lines, all these little character quirks of Charlie are just so emblematic of his problem. He doesn't see his problem as being a problem. He sees his problem as being the solution. It's not me. It's not the alcohol. That's not the problem. The problem is there's no story out there. I just need a drink. Like, it's so well done. I really like these scenes. It just seems so well crafted to me. But at this point, so the first time Charlie went off on the bartender kind of broke and said, look, all right, fine, I'll just pour you a drink. This time the bartender's not having it. He says, why don't you go down to that restaurant down the street? He makes a great bowl of chili. It'll pick you right up. Have a cup of coffee, relax, get back out there and get yourself a story. I'm telling you, everybody needs this bartender at their side. When you're feeling down in the dumps and you just want to go have a drink or whatever your vice happens to be, everybody needs someone like this in their life to just kind of point them in the right direction.
It pretty much was the bartender. Like, he took the spotlight for this scene, right? He really was helping, trying to help him. And then, like you said, before he put his foot down, he poured him a drink. But this time, he's like, no, he believes in him. You're on your way to sobriety. You cannot just have a drink just because it's not working out for you today. Like, he's like forcing him to, like, hey, continue the sobriety. It's gonna, things will look up. Yeah, just keep going.
Absolutely. I'm absolutely 100% with this bartender. oh my, can you imagine if, oh my gosh, I just thought of something. What if he snapped and killed the bartender and that was his story? Oh, that would have really crushed my spirits. That would have really crushed me. I don't think I could have handled that.
It would have been more fun one. I probably would have liked that route because I would have liked something more chaotic in this episode.
That would have been a crazy twist for him to flip out on the bartender, this very same person trying to help him. That would have been an amazing, unfortunate twist.
Yeah.
So,
cracks a bottle.
So Charlie does take his advice. He goes down to the restaurant down the street and he orders himself. I think he just ordered coffee. He's just drinking coffee and reading the newspaper, right? Is that what's going on there?
Yeah, that's pretty much all you had.
So the owner of, I think it's the owner. It's probably the owner because that's his name is in neon. Oh, speaking of noir, the scene of him sitting in the restaurant with a cup of coffee, holding a newspaper with that bright neon sign flashing behind him and with the dark streets out beyond that is such a fantastic noir visual. Very, very well. This is a very well directed episode. I feel it looks very, very nice all the way through. So Charlie's in there reading the paper, drinking the coffee. The owner of the restaurant goes to the back and you hear him start to argue with a woman. They go back and forth. No, you can't leave. I want to leave. No, you can't. And basically, and from there you hear some crashing sounds and then silence. And Charlie's just kind of out there like, what the heck's going on? And then that owner of the restaurant comes out really slowly and he's distraught. And he says, I killed her. I killed her. And this is where we get the reporter part of him coming out. Like Charlie's gone at this point. Right now we're dealing with Charlie like work mode, right? Nothing else matters to him. He just wants to get the story. So he pulls out his notebook, he's got his pen, and he's basically saying, you know, what's going on. And that's where he gets the story that this restaurant owner has a younger wife and she leaves all the time and she sleeps around with other men. And he can't handle it. He hates it when she leaves and she always wants to leave. And he's had enough of it. And on this particular night, she wanted to leave. He wouldn't let her, and he killed her. I think he says he choked her or strangled her or something like that. Mm-hmm. And that was that. So he says, well, I need to go call the cops. So he goes back to call the cops, and that's when he sees the woman on the floor, and she starts to stir like she's not quite dead yet. So he actually goes up to her, and she turns around, and it's revealed to be Vicky. So this is Vicky. Yeah. This is his love interest. And rather than help her, this is where he wraps his hands around her and kills her. He kills his own love interest, Vicky, for this story. So he kills her. He goes back to the phone to call up. I don't even think he calls the police. He calls Phil. He calls Phil first and basically tells him over the phone the story. That's like, he's back in it. Like, this is his job. This is what he's doing. And he's good. He's good. Like, he's going through and basically reciting out loud what the news article is going to say. So he's doing a great job. And all the while over his shoulder, you can see that the restaurant owner is just sobbing behind him, right? Like, just crying. And I don't know if you noticed this, but while he was telling the story over the phone, he found a little bottle of whiskey, and he was actually drinking the whiskey while he was telling the story. So he finally got what he wanted. He got the story he wanted. He had to kill the woman he loved in order to get that story. But while he's telling the story, he doesn't care. All he cares about is just telling the story and doing his job. But notice how the alcohol and his story and his work all go together. Like, he's going to drink no matter what. He can fight it. He can fight it. He can fight it. If he's in a rough spot, he just needs a drink. If he's in a great spot, hey, let's celebrate. Let's have a drink. If he's doing his job and he finally got the story that he needs, he's going to have a drink. So this is a story about a man drinking. Like, never mind the murder. Never mind the losing your job. Never mind everything else. Like, this is just a man who's just going to be drinking no matter what. So that's the takeaway I got when I watched it the second time. The first time, all that was lost on me because I was just waiting. Wait a minute, when is this woman going to start killing people? When are we going to find out that Vicky is actually the murderer? Like, that's where my mind was stuck. I couldn't get past that. And it really bothered me. And I didn't really identify that until I watched it the second time, and I realized that's got nothing to do with her. Like, who cares about this Vicky woman? She's irrelevant. What's the point is, it's this man and his drink and maybe the bartender.
I like how the Nico, the owner, was introduced, because he's just blabbering about something, just talking about whatever the case might be. And he's like, and Charlie just turns like, can I just read my newspaper in peace, please? I just like how that was introduced. And I know the bartender's the MVP, but I really like Nico as well. He's a pretty good actor, because after he quote unquote kills his wife at the time, he was very shaken up, and he was choked up. Like, every time he would talk, it would be kind of stammering. It was a pretty good representation of someone who's going through some sort of trauma. So it was nice. But right before right before Charlie goes into that back room to I guess the private space, next to the restaurant, I had a feeling that the body might have been Vicky.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't like that if that's the actual twist. Like, the twist is it happened to be the woman that he was kind of having a fling with. I think that's kind of a lazy twist in my eyes. Like, because she doesn't do anything. You know what I mean? She is just there. Like, she actually doesn't progress the story in any way. Like, she doesn't have to be there whatsoever for him to have a murder case or anything like that, or kill anyone else. Yeah.
It really could have just been Nico's wife that we had never met so far. It really could just have been that simple. Just the fact that he was willing to kill someone, I think, really shows you the madness that was in him, or the craving that was in him for that story. So yeah, I agree with you. I didn't need to be Vicky. We didn't need to have Vicky much in the story at all. The fact that it was there, it almost seemed like it was put in there. Like, it almost seems like the whole story was written to not have Vicky, and then in the last minute they're like, let's just make it somebody he was having a fling with, just to also have a little twist in there. So I guess you don't really need that as much.
No, not really.
Yeah, I agree with you though. As far as the Nico was his name. Thank you for reminding me.
Nico.
He did it. His performance was pretty good. You could see he was distraught. I think he killed or at least he thought he killed his wife, but you could tell he didn't mean to. He might have just been upset. It might have been heat of the moment, and he put his hands on her, and then, now he's, willing, or at least starting to accept the consequences of what he did. Yeah, he's pretty distraught over it. That brings us back to Charlie in that room, whatever room he was talking to us from. And he says at this point, they want him to write a book about his double life of reporter and a murderer. And he says, then it zooms out a little bit. You see he's in a straitjacket. So he's in a mental hospital, apparently. And he says, I just want a drink. That's all I want is a drink. Yeah, this last scene, really, so even watching it the second time, this part of the story didn't even really, we could have taken out, not only could we have taken out all the stuff about Vicky, we could have taken out all the stuff of this, leave the voiceover in there, but we don't need to see Charlie telling us the story from this mental institution with a straitjacket on. It muddies the waters. It makes things even more confusing. And what the heck happened? We're missing a piece. We're missing a piece between him getting that story and then finally getting committed. There's definitely a big jump there that we're missing that I don't appreciate. So that's, even watching it a second time, I'm not a big fan of this whole angle.
What would have been better probably is maybe towards the end, he's telling us, us about what's happening. But then when it pans out, he's actually talking to a reporter doing a story on him. And I think that'd be way cooler. It's his understudy, or maybe Phil, or just someone a rival. Maybe that's what made him more of an alcoholic. I don't know. And it's just it'd be nice just to have that, and because it didn't make sense for him to be in a straitjacket whatsoever, realistically. It seemed random for him to be in a straitjacket. Yeah.
It did seem random. Yeah. I didn't like it. It was weird. It was out of place. And you wouldn't even have to edit much. Just edit, like, you can keep the voiceovers even. Like when he's talking, we just don't need to cut to him talking from a location. Like it could just be an internal monologue. It could have been that simple. And the fact that they went through with having him be committed in this way was just so strange. It was weird. So that brings us back to the Crypt Keeper, who says, "Poor Charlie. I bet he wishes that he'd killed the story instead. Perhaps now they'll let him write for the paper's horoscope column. Care for another drink? Or should I just put a head on this one?" And he takes a little shrunken head and puts it in the stein glass. Kind of a clever little joke in there. Final thoughts, or I suppose, all right, let's dig into this a little bit. Definitely alcoholism and addiction is kind of a big theme in this. And my mind went right to Leaving Las Vegas. It's that Nicolas Cage movie where he's an alcoholic and he moves to Vegas or goes and stays in a hotel in Vegas. And his plan is to drink himself to death in Vegas. And he gets himself a hooker and he sleeps around with her and basically just squanders all of his money away drinking himself to death. I think that's like the ultimate alcoholic's tale. And I see a lot of parallels here. He can't help himself. He just has to drink. And so did Nicolas Cage in that movie. And even sleeping with the hooker, or at least he accused her of being a hooker, but I don't think she was. I just think that it seemed like she was, because that was how, like, they weren't allowed to be that intimate. They were only allowed to just sleep together, but they weren't really allowed to be like friends or companions. I saw that parallel quite a bit. But all the bar scenes, I got Cheers vibes. I got Cheers vibes with a nice friendly bartender and everybody knows his name. And it's just, I found the bar to be the most comforting set piece in the episode. So I like that. I do like that. Can you think of any other movies that have, alcoholism or addiction that you felt kind of paralleled this?
I think of like A Star Is Born. He was a alcoholic who gets into more depression and eventually passes away.
Yeah, there's plenty of other movies. Oh, even that movie Flight with Denzel
Flight,
Washington.
Yeah. Denzel,
where he just he was an alcoholic and he had to try to play sober for the courts, but he couldn't even get through that. So they're definitely out there, but this is I thought this was effective. This is well done. And then of course there's the angle of, right, he has to come up with a story of a murder, and then he goes and commits the murder so he can get that story. That ease will kill you all over again, right? So he has to come up with some art. So he goes and kills people so he can actually art with his murder spree. And then you brought up last time with Ease will kill you brought up Nightcrawler, right? Mm-hmm. And this is even, I think, more in line with that because he's an actual reporter. Yeah. So, and then of course this is very heavy on the noir, and it made me think of Dick Tracy as one of my favorite noir movies. And it's not even noir in terms of like taking itself seriously. It's like comically noir, but I like it though. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's a fun one though.
Yeah, unfortunately I haven't, but it does remind me of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, because I know that is kind of noir, but I don't have a lot of noir. Actually, Sin City. I always forget Sin City.
Oh yeah, Sin City's good.
Yeah, it's a big one. Yeah.
Yeah. Terminator is kind of an underrated noir flick. It's not known for being noir, but it's pretty noir. I like it. I like it not because it's noir, but it just happens to be noir also.
You like it because it's Terminator.
I like it because it's Terminator. Last time we watched this together, I was not as happy, right? And then towards the end, the score wasn't that great. Actually, you give your score first.
Me? Yeah. I don't mind talking about my rating. Like I said, I'm okay with this episode. The first two acts, I was really all about it. Like, it's very simple. Nothing's out of nowhere. It's just about a struggling reporter who was a big shot. And I like where it was going. But then how it ends, it just seems like a jump. it just seemed like that moment when he's at that Greek restaurant and then the owner somewhat kills his wife. That was like the start of Act 2 in my eyes. Like that's when it should happen. But we're kind of met with like such a swift ending, like just a very a cut to the point. Like he's in jail. It's like, all right, well, all that build up for what? Like for me. So I do like the theme of alcoholism. Like it is said, conveyed pretty straightforward. But for the gore, for the twist, for like the violence in Tales from the Crypt, it is a little lacking. So unfortunately, I am going to give it 2.5 shots of vodka because it's okay. It's not the worst, but it's okay.
Okay. I am. When I had watched this the first time, I'm right there with you with the score. I think we even talked about what we might give this, and I think I was right on about the same page as you. Once I got it through my thick skull that the story wasn't about Vicky, I was able to see a much more nuanced story and nuanced performance that I was really thoroughly impressed by. There are people in my life who are recovering addicts, and hearing their stories and seeing their struggles, I can see that depicted in this very well. So that was very touching to me. I know that's not what we're necessarily grading this on or should be grading this on, but unfortunately that's part of being a human. That's part of taking in life's worth of experiences, and then seeing it put to the screen could be very meaningful in very different ways. So for that reason, I'm going to give it 4. I'm going to give this 4. You give it shots of vodka. That's exactly where my mind went. 4 shots of vodka. I'm gonna go with that. So, I would like to give this a 5. Seeing his struggle on the screen did have some significance to me. So, I can't though, because the Vicky thing, like you said, the Vicky twist was kind of irrelevant. It was kind of stupid. The straitjacket reveal at the end was just absolutely out of nowhere. And I think you're right. I think it feels like by the time he kills somebody to get his story, at that point we can be propelled into the final act to see, okay, now what's going to happen. And if we get rid of that Vicky side story, you can shorten up that first chunk to make the ending a little bit longer so you can see where it goes. And I even thought to myself, when he was on the phone with Phil breaking the story down, you see Nico behind him sobbing. Nico could have grabbed a knife and said, I don't want to go to jail, and then stab him. That could have happened.
Yeah.
Or she could have woken up again and said, no, he did it. Right? Like there was plenty of different avenues that you can go through that I was kind of waiting to happen that never did. And then, so I guess the twist was cheap in this. And with the twist of him killing Vicky was cheap. The twist of him actually killing somebody was very effective. It didn't have to be Vicky. And then the hat on the hat, right? The additional twist at the end of him wearing the straitjacket was just stupid and out of nowhere. So I can't give it a 5. It's not reasonable, but I'm going to give it a 4. This was a very well done story. I like the writing. It visually looked very nice, and it told a very human story, I feel.
It's kind of crazy because you started with a 2.75 when we first watched it, and
I know I was only slightly higher than you when we first started. I think I even told you at 2.75. I wanted her to have something to do with the twist so bad. I wanted her to be the killer or the mastermind behind something. That's where I thought it would be going the whole time. And the longer the story went without it getting there, I kept waiting for it to happen, and it never did. And I was getting impatient. Watching it again, I realized, oh, it's about him and his drinking and his struggles. Like I saw all of it. It was really good. So Horrorspondents, let's go with Horrorspondents. I'm going to start off with a comment we got from Iron Sabbath. He actually writes regarding way back in season 1. Remember way back in season 1, we did a ranking of all of the episodes of season 1. Feels like so long ago.
It was so long ago. Huh?
So Iron Sabbath says, I have a very unpopular opinion. I find All Through the House very overrated by fans of the show. It's okay, but I just don't find it that interesting. That is a hot take, let me tell you, because that is not just one of my favorite episodes from Tales from the Crypt. It's one of my favorite short horror stories from any horror anthology movie or TV show. I freaking love All Through the House. It's so good. He says, secondly, Dig That Cat, He's Real Gone is not only one of my favorites of this season, but I consider it one of the best episodes of the entire series. My wife and my sister also rate it very high, so I guess it runs in the family. Now, I agree with you on that. Dig That Cat is really good. Let me see what I scored it. Dig That Cat, I gave it a 5 as well. I love Dig That Cat. I think it has one of the best twists, and it's a good story. Godden, you gave it a 4. You got some explaining to do.
Give it a 4. Just it's just there's something else missing that want to make it throw to a 5, but it is a really strong episode. Like nonetheless, I'll watch it again and again.
Yeah, it's a good one. Iron Sabbath has a more recent comment from Morn and Mess. By the way, Morn and Mess is the episode that just released most recently. So most of our comments are going to come from that. So he writes, this is an okay episode. I feel like 0.5 is a bit harsh. That's right, because I gave Morn and Mess a half a point. I was not digging Morn and Mess whatsoever. He says, trust me, Tales from the Crypt does take a real dip in quality, particularly in the last 2 seasons. I would go along more with Godden and say it's about 2 for me. It at least has some gore at the end. Okay. By the way, in Morn and Mess, I had asked for you guys to comment your favorite podcasts. And Iron Sabbath down here says, the Crypt Keepers podcast has been my favorite from your recommendations. So that's great. And I love that you found it from our recommendations. So that is the purpose of our shout outs at the end of the episode, is to shine the light back out in the horror community in particular and try to get, just try to get more awareness of a lot of these great podcasts. So the Crypt Keepers podcast, they're the ones who do Spotify only, and they go through the episodes very thoroughly. They do a deep dive on all the people involved as far as directors, writers, actors. They go way back to the comics, and they talk about how the story relates to the comic book. They even do a deep dive on who wrote the comic, who did the art on the comic, who colored the comic. I didn't know that those were different people before I started listening to the Crypt Keepers podcast. So yeah, they're very, very, when I say we're not professionals, Godden and I, and that we're just watching the show and then coming on here to blab about it, like these guys are not that. If you go to the Crypt Keepers podcast, you're going to have a very well thought out show with people who do a tremendous amount of research before they even turn the cameras on, or turn the mics on in this case, because they don't have a video, but you know what I mean.
Oh yeah, true.
So thank you for that. Thank you for that, Iron Sabbath. The Jamirian comes through and actually responded to Iron Sabbath about my 0.5 and says, yeah, I agree. 0.5 is a bit harsh. Season 6 had some garbage, and I like to pretend season 7 didn't happen. However, I'm going to really enjoy watching Kenny and Godden trash it. That's going to be fun. I'm glad that you're looking forward to us struggling to get through the last 2 seasons. You know what? Yeah, I have not seen all the episodes yet. I do have all the box sets, but I've only ever, I don't know. You start from one and you kind of go up, and then you know how it is when you have a box set of something, you don't watch it for maybe a year or 2. You kind of forget which episodes you have watched. So then you start over again, but then you realize I watched this, and then you got to go back and skip around. I never ended up getting to the last couple of seasons. So that'll be new to me. Oh, he goes on to give the episode 2.5 severed ears. So thank you for that. Oh, and the Jamirian also gives his list of podcasts. He says, Cryptique is my favorite podcast. I'm not making that up. That's actually what it says. Thanks, Jamirian. I'm so glad to hear that you like us that much to call us one of your favorite podcasts. So I definitely appreciate that. He also listens to Creeps of the Crypt. Again, Creeps of the Crypt is another podcast that we've been shouting out quite a bit. And they're a lot like us in terms of a couple of guys on YouTube here who just go on and just talk about the episode. So they're a couple of good guys. We actually chat with them quite a bit, and we're looking forward to doing a collab with them at some point. No promises, nothing like that. It's still all in the talks, but yeah, they're a couple of good guys. He also recommends Ryan Hollinger. He says they have a great channel that analyzes horror movies. Minty Comedic Arts is fun for movie trivia, and Johnny Two Cellos is great for cartoons like Futurama and Rick and Morty. Now, I love Futurama and Rick and Morty, and I always thought that Rick and Morty was like a perfect blend of Futurama and Invader Zim, which are two of like some of my favorite cartoons. You put those together, and I feel like that's like what Rick and Morty is. So I'll definitely check them out. I haven't got a chance to yet. Joseph Hill comes back, and he also writes to us regarding Morning Mess. Oh, he says, I'd rate it 2.5 cans of cannibal soup. I love it. He says, okay, so favorite podcasts. Now, again, I'm not making this up. You can read it in the comments. He says, Cryptique is probably my favorite right now. Not just saying that to blow smoke. I'm really enjoying going through each episode with you guys. So thank you very much for those kind words.
Yeah.
We're enjoying it too. We're enjoying going through the episodes and just saying our piece, putting our thoughts out there in the internet, and then building a community around it. So thank you for being part of this, everybody. I'm getting choked up about this. Hold on. I got like a dry throat now.
Thank you guys. Yeah, my favorite thing is when we have a bad episode, I look forward to the comments. It's like make my day. That's me.
He also recommends Hack the Movies. Now, I do know Hack the Movies. They do also Talking About Tapes, which is like a podcast similar to this, where they go through a movie kind of beat by beat, scene by scene, and they just kind of, riff off of each other and talk about what they liked or didn't like about each scene. And Godden, when you and I were kind of putting this together, that's something that I was looking at. I was watching episodes of Talking About Tapes to help me model like what this is going to look like when we actually start to do it. Are we going to go through the scenes and talk about each scene and then talk about it that way? Or are we going to just speak globally about the episode and just kind of refer to things in the episode and just assume everybody watched it? I guess that might be another way we can do it. But yeah, what we ended up settling on was kind of doing a little beat by beat and then talking about each scene as we get through it. And the rest of Joseph Hill's recommendations, I've actually not heard of the rest of these. So we're going to go through them real quick. He goes, Whatever, Jim Cornette, Ryan Ripken, The Vault, Stevie Richards, and Major Wrestling Figure. So I don't know if that's one podcast or a whole list of podcasts. It's a big list.
Might be a list. I think it's a list, yeah.
Anyway. Okay. Now with that, we would normally go into shout outs, but I feel like that was a decent shout out. We just shouted out a lot of other podcasts there. If there are more podcasts that you're a fan of that you want to share with us or share with the community, leave it in the comments below. If people are here, they're probably interested in learning or hearing or seeing other things in the horror community. So feel free to leave it down there.
Oh,
so
we should do.
Godden, besides alcohol and narcotics and whatnots, there are 3 well-known addictions in the world of food in particular. Those are salt, fat, and sugar. Have you heard of these?
I see. I don't think so, but maybe when I was in school. But
in the culinary world, there are 3 very addictive substances: salt, fat, and sugar. In the comments below, if you made it this far in the video, I want you to comment your fix. What are you going for? If you are absolutely craving something, is it going to be salty? Is it going to be fatty? Or is it going to be sugary? I like a good salty crunch Godden, if I can find a Doritos chip somewhere near me, I would be a happy camper. So that's absolutely my fix in the culinary world. What would you go for?
That's so hard for me because like usually when I eat, it's very mood dependent. You know, like, oh, I'm feeling this today, I'm feeling that today. So for me to stick with like one vice, whether it's salt, fat, or sugar.
Oh yeah, I guess you can have
yeah.
you can have all three. You can have all three. But what are you going for first? What's your fix? What are you getting first?
I think I'll just do sugar then.
Sugar?
Sugar's pretty simple. Yeah.
Okay. So if we had a Doritos bag of chips, right, and then an Oreo bag, right, of cookies, right.
I'm going for Oreo.
Right.
Yeah.
We're not going to be fighting, Godden. We're going to be happy as can be because I'm going to grab those Doritos, and you're going to grab the Oreos.
Yeah, and we're gonna watch Tales from the Crypt.
There you go.
And that's what we're gonna cover. Yeah.
So yeah. Okay. So yeah, if you watched this far, leave that in the comments down below. What's your culinary fix? All right, everybody. If you are enjoying yourselves and following along with us, by next week you want to watch season 3, episode 13, Spoiled. Spoiled. It's the penultimate episode of the season. So make sure you watch that, and we'll be here next week to talk about it. And with that, until then, we here at the Cryptique Podcast wish you all sweet nightmares.
Well, how was that for a scream, boys and ghouls?